Wow. That's a good point that, a lot of these commandments that God gave, which were for freedom, which were for the good of people, were never kept. We see that time and again where they didn't keep the Sabbath, they didn't keep the feasts, they didn't do all these things. And then when God says, I can't stand your feast, he's not talking about his feast, he's talking about their feast, right? He's talking about, like, oh, I gave you some good feasts, but you didn't keep the ones I gave you. Then we see that in the days of Hezekiah, he invited some people from the north to come on down, and they all had a little fiesta together. They celebrated the Feast of Tabernacles together, and they're like, man, that was fun. It was fun. Let's do that again, right? And they're all like shocked that this would be such a great time. And God's like, duh, I kept telling you that these are my feasts. These are my appointed times. They're really fun. And just kind of segue into our next topic here. This is one of those areas where I feel there's so much ignorance and there's so much animosity to anything that smacks of Judaism. But really, it's not even Judaism. It's really just Torah, okay? And, thank God for the Jews who have kept the Torah alive. Thank God for the Jews who have kept Hebrew alive. And now the rest of us can appreciate that. But, in all fairness, these are not Jewish holidays. These are God's holidays. He said these are my feasts. And yet, the average Christian thinks, well, those are for the Jews, those aren't for us. We're not into that stuff. Quit trying to Judaize me. I mean, I hear it all. And, I'm kind of stuck in the middle, right? Because I do believe in Jesus, right? But I also believe that same Jesus is the one who was intimately involved in giving us the Torah. I know you may think differently, Gidon, but, from my perspective, and I suppose Bob's as well, Yeshua is, he's part of that Godhead. And so, he is the one who was also there giving the Torah, etc. And so, if you could kind of help our listeners, our viewers to understand what are we missing? Why is there so much animosity? Or kind of, what we started with, what does every Jew wish that every Christian knew about Judaism and or the Torah and or the feasts, or however you want to take that?
First of all, if I could, I'd like to step back a second. As far as you took the statement that I said about Jubilee not being observed possibly ever. I don't think it's so much we did it wrong. We were only thinking about ourselves. I think it was more, if I can relate it actually to what Bob mentioned about moving the United States Embassy to Jerusalem. It's a law that the embassy must be moved. However, it has a built-in escape valve that if there's some reason why you can't do it, then just press this button and you can push it off for 6 months. That's in fact what it is over there. And I think that's what happened all throughout the years, the centuries that the Jubilee wasn't held. I think people looked at it and they say, this is very hard. I don't think we're ready for it yet. Financially, agriculturally, we're perhaps from a faith perspective, because the Bible says specifically that you're supposed to let the land lay fallow every 7th year. And then after 7 times of those 7 years, 49 years, you're supposed to let the land lay fallow once again. So the Bible says, if you're going to ask, what are we going to eat? So God says in the Bible right there, don't worry about it. I'm going to command my blessing. That's the literal translation of what it says over there. You can look it up in the Bible. It's probably right there, where near the verse that you said before. I'm going to command my blessing the 6th year, the 7th year, and the 8th year. So if you just follow my commandment to let the land lay fallow in the 7th year, you can have blessing for 3 years straight. And ostensibly, I don't think it appears there, but if you have during the Jubilee year, you can have the 6th year, the 7th year, the 8th year with the Jubilee, and the 9th year. 4 years straight of full blessing. So as far as but on the other hand, push comes to shove, put your money where your mouth is. Okay, now you're gonna take 4 years. You're gonna take a 4-year sabbatical. Yeah, let's see if you can handle that. It's not so easy, and you're talking about a national level also, and it's not only letting the land lay fallow, it's returning all the lands. It's just something that people that I think that people just weren't ready for throughout those years. So I wouldn't put it so much, even though the Bible specifically says that not following the rule of the Shemitah of the seventh year, that is a reason to go into exile specifically. But I'm trying to be a little bit more gracious to my forefathers as far as that's concerned.
And please don't take it as an attack, okay? Because I feel intimately involved with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So
Sure,
I'm not pointing the finger. I'm pointing at the finger at all of us, right? Because we don't, we humanity doesn't follow what God said to do,
yeah. I'll tell you about Doug. We're friends on Facebook. I've been following you, and when you put a question and then you get about 100 answers, but that's something new, relatively new. It's relatively new to me, but it's new really to the Jewish people. When you say those aren't the Jewish holidays, those are God's holidays, you're right. You read it as Elohim Moadai. These are my holidays. These are my festivals. But the Jewish reading of that is, they are my festivals, you are my people, therefore they are my festivals for you, to the exclusion of others. The Jewish religion, for so many years, for various reasons, I think, has been an extremely exclusionary religion. They read the whole Bible, and I'm talking about my Jewish friends. They look at me and say, "Gideon, you're crazy. Why are you dealing with all these Christians? You got all these Jews to deal about, and so many Jews are in need of learning about the Torah, about learning about their own heritage, about their own what they're supposed to be doing." So I can't take everything that you said in introduction to this session at face value, but that's fair also. I also, so if I can get back to your question finally, and that is, what would Jews want Christians to know about Judaism? I think that was your question.
yes.
I think the answer, first and foremost, has to be just let's take it easy and be open over here. In other words, let's not worry about it so much. If you ask me a question, I'm not going to disintegrate and dissipate just from the question. And if I give you an answer, then you're not going to melt like some wicked witch of the West or something like that. I don't see you, Doug. Have you disappeared?
I'm still here.
You're still there. Okay.
You're good. Yep.
And if we just say, I'm confident in who I am, I also know that I have foibles and I'm not perfect, and everybody knows that. I don't have to try to put up a face that I'm perfect or anything like that. And if we just say, hey, I as a Jew and you as a Christian, who are daring to step out and may I have this dance, like the first time that somebody meet you, say, oh, there's some enchanted evening, you see a stranger across the crowded room, and you say, may I have this dance. That's what we're doing over here, because the Jewish people and Christians have been strangers for thousands of years at best, enemies at worst. And so now we are at an opportunity where we have so many things in common, so many common interests, that we can try to focus on those common interests and start talking to each other. And if we just put aside our differences, and granted, they are tremendously big differences. I'm not saying that, we can just put them aside forever and we're just one big happy family and we'll pretend that the other person has already accepted all of the things that we have, and we're not children. We can recognize that we have differences, but it's fascinating that even in spite of these differences, there's so many people who are interested. we run an organization, I don't think you mentioned it, called RootSource, root-source.com. RootSource is an online platform for Christians and Jews to study the Torah, to study Jewish concepts, ideas, texts, and themes, and build a relationship with each other. And in spite of what so many of my unknowledgeable Jewish friends will say, well, all of those Christians, they just want to turn you into a Christian, right? It's all just, you're just there to be proselytized. In spite of what they say, I recognize all these people just want to learn more. They just want to learn me. These are people who are really putting their, well, not money where their mouth is, but their time, their efforts, their resources, their interests. I hear many, I see a lot of, pardon the expression, anti-Semites on the internet who say, but I love Jews. Yeah, okay, you said 3 words. I love Jews, and that's it. You don't have to do anything more. You can do the opposite. But these are people who are spending time. Some of them are paying to study. Anybody who wants to sends me emails, and we have interactions. We do Skype. Anything that you want to build this relationship, and the relationship is based on common decency and common respect. So that was a long introduction to get to that last sentence, because that is the answer to your question. What do we Jews, and again, it's not all Jews, only the Jews who care enough to ask this question. What do we Jews want Christians to know? We want you to know that we're just people just like you. You don't have to be afraid of us, and you have to just show us that we don't have to be afraid of you. That's it.
That's awesome. I really appreciate that.